Welcome to Talent on Tap. I'm Brendan Brown. I lead recruiting at LinkedIn, and I am very excited to welcome Justin Thenutai to the show. And we're going to be talking about data and insights and continuing to elevate the profession of talent acquisition. So Justin, tell us a little bit about who you are, the role you're in, and where you work.
Absolutely. I work in talent acquisition at Microsoft. I lead a central excellence team on behalf of global talent acquisition, where we do things anywhere from strategy and planning and day-to-day business management to our programs and systems to sourcing channels and strategies, and in this case, market insights and intelligence.
So let's dig in there. Can you talk a little bit about market insights and intelligence and sort of how you define that and in the context of talent?
Absolutely. So the words, the industry words are typically associated with compete.
Yeah.
We've been on a journey around what we looked at compete, where win-loss against certain competitors. We've transitioned that a couple years ago to market intelligence, understanding the general trends of where the market is moving, to market insights, and then ultimately actionable plans related to those insights. And so, in yesterday's environment for us, we were very fixated on a core set of competitors and the win-loss ratios related to talent. What we've realized is that, when you look at it at a company level, you get very focused in on a small percentage of the actual talent pool that you're going after. By applying a talent pool approach and understanding the skills, experience of a broader total addressable market of talent, we're able to actually address that TAM.
Yeah.
and focus our plans and our strategies against the broader set. The reality is you have to take a couple of steps back. You have to look at what are the skills that are necessary to be successful as a business. Where do those skills exist in the market? And then apply a plan that actually addresses getting X number of talent that's needed to actually finish that business goal.
Can you talk a little bit about what you believe should be expected of recruiters today in this world of data that we're moving into, and how they can start applying some of these things?
Being proactive around, based on these requirements, understanding the talent pool that exists, and helping to set expectations with hiring managers about the complexities that may factor into more requirements, setting expectations around the timeline based off of how hard it may be to fill because of supply and demand, compensation, all those factors there. So you can, at a recruiter, in the recruiting role, leverage that data set and share that out with your hiring manager to set those very expectations in terms of what may work, what we may need to adjust, and just what you should expect.
In those situations, like, where could that conversation end up? Could it end up being like literally, hey, let's change the spec, or it's not in this city, it's actually in that city, or you think they're hiring machine learning career experts and they're not, they're hiring,
Absolutely. I mean, at the core, it challenges some of these beliefs going into it. What is actually a requirement, for these jobs here? And so beyond the data and the insights here, you're starting to toy a bit with, we believe that you need this experience to get the job done, when in fact what we're seeing in the market is that experience is not the thing that is making people successful. Some of these things are trainable. And so it's changed the conversation for us in allowing us to screen in more talent, because there are core things that are actually requirements for the job, and it might be in the form of a skill or experience, and there are others that are very much trainable. And so when you apply the LTI to the mix here, you see that total addressable market shrink the more requirements you have, right? And have the ability to visualize just how much more open the talent pool gets when you understand what is nice to have versus what truly is a requirement. That changes the game. It allows a business to see, you factor in time to fill, you factor in the cost of vacancy when your sales teams aren't fully staffed, when your engineering teams don't have enough people to build product. When you put in those in those factors there, it does change the conversation quite a bit.
Super helpful to understand those expectations, so thank you for that. In terms of when a recruiter should be digging into these things in a world of proactive, reactive, when should that process start?
earlier is better, as early as you can. And so if the earliest is the rec intake, so be it. If you have an existing relationship and you're supporting a team that has, then getting in front of that LT or that hiring manager, then there is power when you aggregate, rather than looking at the rec level, looking at it in aggregate. So for recruiting managers and recruiting leaders that manage geographies or certain business sets where there are tens or hundreds of these types of similar roles here, that becomes a more powerful conversation too.
Before the cameras were rolling, you and I were chatting a little bit about sort of where we're headed, and I thought you gave one of the most succinct observations I've heard about where we're headed in the supply and demand for talent. People think we're in this crazy war for talent now, and surely it's not easy. But talk a little bit more about these observations that you have and your sort of predictions about where we're going, because I think it's something that we should all pay close attention to.
The scarcity, AI and automation, while we would perceive it to be painful, I don't think we've felt it yet.
Yeah.
I don't think we've still, scarcity, but we still deliver, right? That's a common story in our industry.
Yeah.
You can either ignore it and just say, we're okay today, or get ahead of it. And I think folks that are getting ahead of it to really, understand what that scarcity looks like, and maximizing and optimizing your recruiting plans, your workforce plans, applying, what are the skill gaps and how do I start training internally for those things to really optimize for your L&D materials, location-based decisions. All of those are going to be really critical here, and getting ahead of it will give you a competitive advantage.
So it sounds like the future is fast approaching, and if we don't prepare, we're not going to be ready. So what are some things that recruiters can start doing today to prepare for what you just described as the future in 2 years?
I think the first is understanding total addressable market, right? That concept there, and you've been talking about this for the last several years here. But the approach of, it's less rec-based, it's less posting and letting sort of a hiring manager dictate what those requirements are, but rather, if I use this set of criteria, how many of them exist and where are they? So it's getting curious about the data itself. And LinkedIn Recruiter today has some of these simple views that you can serve up there. LTI changes the game because there is a level of detail there and depth around the location specific, the companies that exist there, the trends and the professions and the and the universities and education that they have associated with. And so this isn't something that you need to then tomorrow go to the business and then proclaim this is what you need to do here. But if you start having those conversations with your recruiting peers and your recruiting teams, I think that next step, it transitions to your HR partners to help bring them along the journey too around what that looks like too, and educate them there, and figure out a game plan on how you would start conversations with the business around that.
Love it. JT, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
Great to have you here.
Thanks.